Hello, and welcome to the Upper Midwest Region Association of College and University Residence Officers, or UMR-ACUHO, Professional Development Magazine. Today we will cover the March 2025 issue, read by Travis Lepke, a complex director at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. The mission of the UMR-ACUHO newsletter is to provide UMR-ACUHO membership with an opportunity for information sharing, professional dialogue, and a forum for ideas to increase knowledge, wisdom, and excellence in our field. UMR-ACUHO is committed to inclusive practices, the principle of equity, and engagement with difference. Our organization seeks to provide members with experiences that foster a culture where civil discourse is embraced. The purpose of UMR-ACUHO shall be to promote and provide an environment full of opportunity and service for all identities. The association will strive to acknowledge discrimination and eliminate it. Today we begin with Inside UMR. We will begin with the case study, The Antikees Hall Dilemma, submitted by the Professional Development Committee Case Study Subcommittee. Who is who? You. You are a new housing director at Vermilion College. You have been focused on addressing the aging residence hall system at the college, with one of your main focuses being Antikees Hall. You are new to this position and are still learning the context of the different partners and relationships that exist on campus. Vermilion Gazette. One of the oldest student-run newspapers in the state, the Vermilion Gazette is part of Vermilion College's famous journalism program. They have a contentious relationship with the college, especially with the housing department. Despite sometimes dubious journalistic standards, they are highly respected within the region. Penny. Penny is a first-year hall coordinator for Antikees Hall. She wasn't thrilled about being placed in Antikees due to its reputation, but has been dedicated throughout the year. Penny has frequently communicated some of the maintenance issues with Antikees Hall. Penny will be running the new building once it opens. Case Study Start. As the Director of Housing at Vermilion College, a mid-sized institution in a town that revolves around the college, you oversee an aging residence hall system. At the heart of the system is Antikees Hall, a building with a storied past and a notorious present. Built in 1950, Antikees Hall was once a bustling home for 300 students. However, due to the closure of the North Wing due to maintenance issues, it can now only accommodate 200 students. Vermilion, a town without its own newspaper, relies heavily on the student-run publication, the Vermilion Gazette, for news. Despite a long-standing contentious relationship with the college, the Vermilion Gazette boasts a significant social media presence and is highly regarded by both students and the community. Antikees Hall is infamous on campus for its post-World War II hastily constructed design. Named after the founders of Vermilion College, Vermilion Antikees, the building is plagued with numerous facility issues and deferred maintenance that far exceeds its value. It lacks many amenities found in neighboring buildings, and over the years, sections have been closed off due to the excessive cost of repairs. The building also houses an abandoned dining hall closed when a larger centralized facility was created in a neighboring building. Antikees Hall, despite its appearance, has been determined through rigorous yearly inspections to still be safe to have residents live in. Several years ago, it was determined to close the North Wing after this section sustained damage from a summer storm that was deemed too expensive for Vermilion College to repair at that time. Both the abandoned wing and former dining hall are inspected to ensure they do not impact the remaining open portions of the building. The department plans to announce the demolition of Antikees Hall this Friday, thanks to a sizable donation that will fund a new residence hall. Antikees Hall will close and be demolished at the end of the next academic year. This new building will house 400 residents and expand the capacity of Vermilion College's housing department. The next morning, you arrive at the office to find a picture of Antikees Hall on the front page of the Vermilion Gazette. The headline reads, "Vermilion Knowingly Endangers Students." The article is an expose detailing various safety issues within Antikees Hall, including broken elevators, mold, asbestos flooring, and more. Many of the claims are exaggerated, but the paper is supported by interviews with current students living in the building and anonymous staff members who work in the building. It is impossible to determine who gave these interviews. Photos of the abandoned North Wing and dining hall are included, though these areas are supposed to be locked. It is discovered that there are numerous ways to access these areas from inside the building that were not identified during the initial closures. The Strategic Communication Office advises against commenting on the article to avoid validating it, assuring you that it will likely blow over. You inform Penny, the hall coordinator of Antiques Hall, about the article to give her a heads up. On Friday, the department announces the demolition of Antiques Hall and reveals renderings of the new building on social media. The Vermilion Gazette shares the announcement, and the comment section quickly turns negative, claiming that the announcement validates the expose. The Gazette also mentions that Vermilion College should not require students to live in a building deemed so unsafe that it will be demolished at the end of the next academic year. What was meant to be an exciting announcement quickly goes south. The following Monday, the department inbox is flooded with emails from parents and students. The Vermilion Gazette article went viral over the weekend, and it has made it onto the regional TV news. The students working the front desk are unsure how to respond to concerned parents and students. Students scheduled to stay in Antiques Hall next year are requesting reassignment or contract cancellations. The system cannot accommodate reassigning these students, as Antiques Hall, being at reduced capacity for years, has pushed capacity to nearly 100%. If all contract cancellation requests are granted, Antiques Hall will open with only 100 students next fall. This significant decrease in income would threaten the department's ability to construct the new residence hall, as even with the donors, they would still need to tap department resources for the construction and furnishing of the building. Additionally, there has been a noticeable uptick in vandalism since the article went viral, and students being fined for the vandalism are saying that it is unfair that they are being charged for vandalism to a building that is being demolished. Penny comes to your office, incredibly stressed. Her RAs are being asked questions, and her office has been full of students all morning. She has spent the entire morning being yelled at and does not know what to do. After Penny leaves, your office phone rings, and it's the president's office asking for an immediate solution to address the situation. Questions to consider. What steps do you think should be taken to address the concerns of the parents and students? Question 2. How would you address this with the student staff team, knowing that they interviewed RAs? Question 3. Would you address the article? If yes, how? And if no, why not? Question 4. How would you support professional staff such as Penny within the department? Question 5. What campus partners would you engage to help address this issue? Interested in working on committees that create things like this case study and perspectives issue? Want to create lifelong professional connections and make differences within the UMR-ACUHO region? Consider joining a 2026 UMR committee. Next, we move on to another Inside UMR article called Getting Excited for Summer Meetings at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, submitted by the Local Arrangements Committee. Here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, we cannot wait to host everyone for summer meetings in just a few short months. This article serves the purpose of showing off some of the cool places to go in Lincoln and to get you more excited about coming to our great city. Lincoln has many great food and drink favorites, whether you're craving coffee, ice cream, an incredible burger, or something more unique. Lincoln has some fantastic options. You can grab a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop, The Mill, or Reactor, or treat yourself to a scoop of ice cream at a place that students rave about, 402 Creamery. If you ask somebody who has lived in Lincoln for a while for a great dinner recommendation, chances are high that they may mention Honest Abe's. Beyond food and drink recommendations, there are some cool spots to explore in Lincoln. When you're in Lincoln and feeling like exploring, check these places out. The Sunken Gardens. Located within a 5-minute drive of campus, walk around and enjoy a view of pretty flowers, plants, and sculptures. This is an awesome free option to enjoy the beauty of nature. The Historic Haymarket. This is walkable from campus or just a 5-minute drive away. The Haymarket features many restaurant options and some local shops. Holmes Lake. This option would require venturing a little further away from campus, but if you're in the mood for a nice walk around a lake, Holmes Lake is the place for you. It's a 12-minute drive away from campus. The Nebraska State Capitol. Lincoln is the capital of Nebraska, and our Capitol building is located right in downtown Lincoln. This option is either a 5-minute drive from campus or a 20-minute walk. Explore UNL's campus. Take some time to walk around campus. If you're lucky, you may see some squirrels running around. Take some time and relax in the hammocks in front of the Union. After that, head inside the Union and grab Starbucks, visit the bookstore, or eat at various fast food places there. Fun fact, the Steak and Shake in our Union is the only one in Nebraska. Visit the Sheldon Art Museum on campus, which is free to walk around in and enjoy looking at art. We know you're all busy supporting students across the upper Midwest region, but hopefully this can get you even just a little more excited about coming to UNL this summer. Next, we move on to Inside UMR Around the Region Campus Spotlight, Cornell College. Since its founding in 1853, Cornell College has been offering unique, life-changing experiences to students from all over the world. In 1978, we began offering the unique academic schedule known as the block plan, in which students learn one course at a time. Following a blockly schedule, students are able to immerse themselves fully into their classes, providing a depth of learning not found elsewhere. In addition to this particular experience, Cornell College has been the first in several areas. We were the first college west of the Mississippi to recognize equal rights for men and women, first Iowa college to graduate a woman, and first college in the nation to pay a woman a salary equal to that of her male colleagues. This spirit of equality and initiative continues to be a focus in all Cornell does, as we seek to mold students of ingenuity and global engagement. Thank you to Jesse B. for submitting the Campus Spotlight this month. Next, we'll move on to the business side. Navigating DEI in the current political climate. Submitted by Ethan Sykes, Director of Housing and Residential Programs at Drury University. Higher education has always been a dynamic landscape shaped by political shifts and evolving societal expectations. However, recent changes under a new federal administration have created unprecedented challenges, particularly in the areas of financial aid, Title IX, international education, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. With minimal guidance from federal agencies, institutions are struggling to adapt their structures and policies to comply with new regulations, often under the looming threat of losing federal aid. The uncertain future of DEI in higher education. DEI initiatives have long been a cornerstone of higher education, promoting inclusive environments where students of all backgrounds can thrive. However, the political landscape has placed DEI programs under scrutiny, with some states and federal policies aiming to restrict their scope or funding. The uncertainty surrounding these initiatives has left institutions grappling with tough decisions, whether to scale back DEI efforts, reframe them under different nomenclature, or double down on their commitment to fostering inclusive campuses. Compliance challenges amid shifting regulations. The fluid nature of federal policies has made compliance a moving target. For instance, changing the Title IX regulations impact how institutions handle cases of discrimination and harassment, requiring swift policy updates and training programs. Similarly, international education faces new restrictions, affecting visa processes and global partnerships. Financial aid policies are also in flux, leading to concerns about accessibility and affordability for underrepresented students. With little clarity from federal agencies, higher education leaders must act proactively to interpret and implement policy changes. Institutions are investing more in legal counsel, compliance officers, and policy advisors to navigate this complex environment while ensuring they continue to uphold their core values. The role of institutional leadership. As institutions face mounting pressure, strong leadership is essential in shaping responses to these challenges. University presidents, deans, and administrators must engage in active advocacy, lobbying for clear guidance and fair policies that support student success. Collaboration with peer institutions, professional organizations, and policy experts can also provide a collective voice in influencing federal decisions. Moreover, institutions must prioritize transparency and communication. Faculty, staff, and students should be kept informed of policy changes, institutional responses, and available resources. Open dialogue fosters trust and ensures that the campus community remains engaged in the decision-making process. Supporting students while adhering to regulations. Despite constraints on DEI programs, institutions can continue to support students by embedding inclusive practices into broader student services. For example, academic support and mentorship, expanding tutoring, mentorship, and first-year experience programs to help all students succeed. There can still be a focus on students who may need additional assistance, which can include the underrepresented student population. Mental health and wellness initiatives. Providing counseling and wellness programs that address the unique challenges faced by diverse student populations. Counselors are required by law to not disclose information outside their meetings. If students need to process their unique challenges with DEI experiences, they can safely do this with a counselor. Cultural and leadership development opportunities. Encouraging student-led cultural organizations and leadership programs that foster a sense of belonging and community. Although the burden should not be entirely on students to sustain DEI work, they can help carry initiatives with support from an advisor. Inclusive curriculum and pedagogy. Training faculty to incorporate diverse perspectives into their coursework and discussions, making learning spaces welcoming for all students. Academic freedom is a critical piece in higher education and has been tested several times in the judicial process. Career and professional development. Strengthening partnerships with organizations that promote workplace inclusion, ensuring students have equitable access to job opportunities and internships. Moving forward with a purpose. Despite the challenges, there are opportunities for institutions to reaffirm their commitment to student success. Creative solutions such as embedding DEI principles into broader student support services, having students lead DEI initiatives through their student organizations, and working to advocate for clarity in the regulations can help sustain progress even in uncertain times. Higher education has weathered political storms before, and with resilience and strategic planning, institutions can continue to serve diverse student populations while navigating the evolving policy landscape. Now more than ever, universities must uphold their mission of equity and inclusion, ensuring all students have access to education and support that they need to succeed. On the next business side, let's be clear. Transparency in residence life hiring interviews. Submitted by Austin Corinta, Community Director at the University of St. Thomas. Our jobs are really weird. With a dynamic schedule and shifting responsibilities every day, we all know that residence life isn't for the faint of heart. Given this, our interview processes can be rigorous as our hiring managers attempt to make sure that the person coming in will be a positive addition to the team. With that being said, I argue that many hiring processes for professionals and student staff alike are not transparent enough for candidates to have a full understanding of their roles, compensation, and accommodations. This article will aim to address areas where we as professionals can be clear with our professional and student staff hiring processes and considerations for more ethical approaches to hiring. Oftentimes, residence life employees have the expectation to accept and make the best of what they are offered. What should be understood is that there's a variety of factors for student and professional roles that play a factor in a candidate's acceptance of a role, and these factors need to be communicated. With any offer, an employee should have a full understanding of the role that they are being offered. Professionals and students alike should know the type of building they are working with, the number of students they will be overseeing, and an idea of how any responsibilities might be different from their peers in similar roles, i.e. duty frequency, event expectations, summer responsibilities, etc. These are all significant factors, and the reality is that they all matter and should be clearly communicated to a candidate to help inform their decision over acceptance or decline of their offer. I could scream it from the rooftops. Compensation matters. While there is a level of vocation that calls many towards serving leadership in the residence life capacity, at the end of the day, the work that we do is hard work that is increasingly difficult to do without the proper compensation. I am not naive to the challenges surrounding institutional politics and attacks on education that make it harder to provide better compensation for staff. However, there's no denying that folks who are providing supervision, care, crisis response, budget management, project oversight, and plenty other tasks associated with our work have a profile that any other field would prioritize with higher pay. Folks who hire, it is our responsibility to ask questions, to advocate for better wages, and pay better for our incoming candidates. Keeping our job descriptions competitive will continue to bring the right folks to the future of higher education and student affairs work. Finally, accommodations made for residence life live-in staff should be appropriate and comfortable. It should be remembered that live-on roles, it is a requirement to live in a provided space on campus. Therefore, these accommodations should be comfortable to support staff in various lifestyles, and these living accommodations should be shown and communicated to candidates at some point in the interview process. For hiring folks, consider adding an apartment showing on your campus interview process, or create a media tour of live-on spaces for candidates to observe before accepting their roles. Additionally, be certain that your candidates know your policies around any live-in cohabitants, pets, or departmental expectations around rotating living spaces and building responsibilities. I understand fully that these are idealistic thoughts, but I do not see any of these viewpoints as radical and unattainable. We know that there is no functional area quite like residence life. With all of our quirks and hiccups, we as staff deserve transparency in what we agree to when we are offered positions. I challenge any hiring manager or live-in professional working to make changes to a resident advisor hiring process, to ask the difficult questions about higher compensation, and to ponder how to provide more transparent processes for candidates to have full understanding of what they are undertaking. Our jobs are weird and take us in many directions. Let's make our hiring process a better start to a weird role. Continuing in the business side, managing from the middle. Vonversations Spring 2025. Facilitated by Von Stang, Ed D., Assistant Vice President for Student Life and Senior Director, University Housing and Dining, University of Iowa. Last October, we presented Vonversations live at the UMR-ACUHO conference in Springfield, Missouri. A group of talented mid-level professionals shared their experiences as they moved from entry to mid-level housing and residence life staffers. Not everyone could attend the conference in October, so the crew decided to put their responses in print and share them with the entire region. The move from entry level to mid-level is a natural progression in this field. Most make the move successfully, but not always seamlessly. You will hear from some mid-level housing staff about their transition into their role and the joys and speed bumps that come with it. If you are planning to take that step in a mid-level housing position, read on and learn from those who have made the jump. Our experienced staff who are sharing their insights include Michelle Madsen, Assistant Director of Facilities and Operations at Missouri State University, Beth Miller, Assistant Director of Residence Life at the University of Wisconsin, Nathaniel Condelli, Assistant Director of Residential Life at South Dakota State University, and Sean Payette, Associate Director, since promoted to Director, of Residential Education at Concordia College, Moorhead. Welcome to the Vonversation. First question. When you were an entry-level professional, what was your initial impression of what working in a mid-level position would look like? Beth. I thought it would be so easy. How different could it be to supervise at a different level? And clearly I was so good at making decisions, so being at the table to make the right decisions all the time would be great. Clearly, I had a lot to learn and overestimated what I knew and my skill set. Please consider this my official public apology to all the mid and upper level professionals who helped me in my entry-level roles and throughout my career. You did get through to me just years later, and I am so thankful for you and your patience. There was a lot of entry-level ego that needed to be replaced with mid-level perspective and moderation. Sean. I think I had convinced myself that there would be minimal, if any, student contact. Those main office jobs just seemed so removed from student life. The longer I was at my entry-level role, the more I picked up on times that our mid-level person met with and interacted with students. While the frequency was less than an entry-level position, I also noticed how the interactions were different in terms of content and scope. Being a mid-level professional wouldn't mean abandoning all student contact, Rather, it would be about pivoting to a new style and means of connecting with the student body. Nathaniel: I really thought that supervision was going to be easier, mainly in the sense that the people I would be advising would be professional level staff and not student staff. I was wrong in this for two main reasons. One of those reasons is that the work is more difficult and the responsibilities are higher for professional staff as compared to student staff. The other is that professionals are working full-time, which in turn increases the amount of time that supervision demands. This can make it difficult to manage both my supervision and daily work alongside each other. Michelle: When I was an entry-level professional, I imagined that working at a mid-level position would come with increased responsibility and greater decision-making authority. I anticipated having the opportunity to contribute to the development and refinement of policies and procedures, helping shape the way things were done within the department. I also expected to be seen as an expert of my area or a key player within the team, someone whose opinions and insights were valued. With this role, I thought I would experience increased influence, particularly when collaborating with others both within the department as well as across different areas of the university. I envisioned myself becoming more involved with strategy and leadership, playing a significant role in guiding the direction of projects and initiatives, and helping to move towards overall success of the department. Question: What functions or aspects of your identity level or previous job you feel prepared you for a mid-level position in housing? Sean: My whole career has been at the same private institution, and I will talk anyone's ear off about the professional development benefits I got from working at a small college. Our staffing model is appropriate for our institution size, and that means we don't have the same people power that a mid or large size institution would have. This left me many opportunities as an entry-level professional to take on additional responsibilities that helped me prepare for mid-level work. Being willing to say yes, within reason, to extra tasks expanded my horizons and helped open career advancement doors more quickly. Beth: I was given great experiences in my entry-level position, and I think I slowly got more ready when I could teach and train others. I also started opening up my perspective to understanding a decision's impact outside of the particular building, or realizing decisions needed to be based on factors that aren't related to what I like best or what works best for me. At some point I also started thinking, wow, if I'm going to be a mid-level, that means every time I go to my supervisor to ask a question for assistance, I'm going to need to be able to do that for others. I think that helped me think about changing from going to others with complaints and shifting towards going in with potential solutions or curiosity. I don't understand why we're doing XYZ. Can you help me understand what I'm missing? It also meant developing skills around talking to parents and listening to concerns, because those are the calls that would get forwarded to me when I moved up. I also had a fabulous supervisor. Shout out to Lori DeValise Collins at UW-Oshkosh. She was honest and kind, supportive ways, and provided a great role model, but also challenged me. Whether it's your supervisor or someone else, finding someone who you can look up to as a role model and who can be honest and caring with you is really important at all phases of your career. Michelle: As I advanced within the same institution, transitioning from my role as hall director, I was able to leverage the skills and knowledge I gained to thrive in a new position. In my time as hall director, I gained an in-depth understanding of the unique dynamics of each residence hall, a foundation that proved invaluable when I transitioned to my role within the facilities department. Additionally, my entry-level position helped me develop a strong understanding of policies and procedures, as well as campus politics and their impact on residence life. Nathaniel: The most important piece here is to become extremely proficient in what your current role is. A lot of times we are waiting for the perfect opportunity or professional development items, but the best development for me comes from diving directly into the work and making sure I understood and excelled in the core functions of my entry-level live-in role. Question: What did you not know prior to taking on your mid-level role that you wish you knew? Michelle: As you advance in your career, the amount of formal training typically decreases. As hall directors, we were fortunate to receive several weeks of comprehensive training, equipping us with essential knowledge about our role, the department, and the university before our student staff arrived. While this training was intense during our first year, it provided us with tools and resources needed to succeed. However, As you move into higher positions, formal training becomes less frequent, and you find yourself learning more on the job, adapting, and figuring things out as you go. Sean, at least in my experience, the mid-level space can feel somewhat isolating. At my institution, mid-level was one job in our department, meaning I had no peers to bounce ideas off of or to receive support from. This was navigable, especially once I expanded my network out to other offices who had been their own mid-level people. That said, it was just a culture shock to go from having a wide array of peers at an entry level to feeling somewhat alone in this new environment. Nathaniel, I really felt like I was going to gain more decision-making responsibilities than I did. The piece that I wish I knew about is that I have gained recommendation responsibilities rather than decision-making. What I mean by this is that we are always going to have people we report to. With that comes the obligation to develop well-thought-out ideas and decisions that are backed by a variety of supporting materials. There's no magic wand that gets to be waved. Beth, I didn't appreciate or know how to navigate lengthy careers at the same place. As an entry-level professional, your life is transitory through college and grad school, and often your entry-level positions are brief. Moving into an established team and working with established partnerships that were enduring on campus necessitates long-range thinking and planning, as well as working towards good relationships, because you're in it for the long journey. In my first mid-level position, most of my colleagues had been working together since I was in elementary school. Instead of needing things to change now, you transition to thinking about changing things in small ways and planting seeds for the future. Patience with working through systems is required. Moving into a mid-level role also challenged me to coach and supervise in different ways. I quickly learned I wasn't recreating the success in others I had experienced. I needed to have a much more robust set of tools so I could help them be their best versions of themselves, because strategies that worked for me were not going to work for them or for today's students. Also, there's no manual. Much of what you're doing is made up. If it was easy, it would have already been written down and we would have trained the entry-level staff on it. It's a lot of asking good questions, consulting with others, and relying on good judgment to make decisions. Question: if you were promoted internally at the same institution, how did you manage the transition from peer to supervisor of staff? What hints for success can you share? Nathaniel, I think it's important to take a team approach while also being professional. The first time I had to have a performance conversation with a supervisee who was formerly a colleague, I was very nervous. The conversation went way better than I had imagined, and I think that started with trust. Building trust among all team members is important. I would really recommend looking into followers' needs of trust, hope, compassion, and stability, and work to identify how you can apply these to your transition into a leadership role. Michelle, setting boundaries is essential. While it was rewarding to maintain a connection with my former peers, allowing them to feel comfortable approaching me with questions, it was important to guide them to the appropriate people based on their needs. While offering support and advice is valuable, it's crucial to ensure they seek the right resources for the right information they require. Moreover, as you move into a higher role, you may have access to sensitive information that they do not, and there are certain topics you simply can't discuss. Establishing clear boundaries means they should respect what can and cannot be shared. Additionally, if they express complaints or frustrations, it's important to listen and acknowledge their feelings, but not be encouraging or amplifying these concerns. Instead, you must remain neutral, offering support while reinforcing the department's goals and objectives. Sean, my biggest piece of advice would be to name that it's weird. I've navigated internal promotions for every step of my career, and I have found that clear, transparent communication helps to address a vast majority of issues that might otherwise arise. Sharing from your perspective how you view the relationship changing is important, but it's equally important to ask the other people how and if they want the relationship to change now you're in a new role. Don't assume you know what they want, and don't expect them to be able to articulate it right away either. Check in routinely and keep the conversation going so things can adapt as each person discovers new things they want and need from the relationship. Question: how do you manage the translator role between entry-level staff and senior staff? For example, getting entry-level staff to buy into an idea the director is implementing that entry-level staff might initially dislike, or communicating entry-level staff concerns to the director in a way that is received well. Beth. The challenging part about this is priority alignment and figuring out the appropriate time, place, and manner to advocate. When decisions are coming from above that I need to tell my team about, I'm honest and direct about it not being optional and that we need to give it our best so it can be as successful as possible. Sometimes I agree it's the best path and know my team will see it that way after we get through it. Or I know things that are happening that are driving this decision that they aren't privy to. Sometimes I don't think it will go well, but I know that I can't let them know that, and I need our work to be defendable and team-oriented. In either case, I tell them that we will make notes, and I'll take feedback about what went well and what didn't go well so that we can figure out future plans. When items came up in our team meetings or one-on-ones, I immediately start thinking about if, when, how to take this forward. Sometimes I choose not to go anywhere with it. In most other instances, it's about figuring out the time, place, manner to bring those things forward. I'm upfront with my team about what I will talk through with my supervisor versus what I need to think about more to figure out the best timing and who to talk about it with. I try to be clear about my plans and validate my staff's concerns and feelings. It's important that I advocate properly that will lead to change they're looking for, which likely means taking additional time and patience until it can be heard and received well. Sean. If you can't tell already, I'm a deeply relational person, and that core aspect of myself is one way I've found success as a translator. Having a deep understanding of the people who report to you and the person or persons you report to is critical in being in that middle space. We all have needs that we want met. As the mid-level person, it's crucial you understand those needs both up and down the org chart. With those needs in mind, you can think critically and creatively about how you frame information to your intended audience that speaks to their need. Nathaniel. My supervisor is really responsive to feedback across all levels of our department. This has allowed me to not view my role as a translator, but more as an advocate or supporter. I'm able to give feedback to my supervisor during one-on-one meetings, and she is able to provide a deeper understanding of why we might be implementing an idea. Then, in larger meetings, I can create a supportive and united front with our leadership team. I also think it's crucial to understand that we are all learning, and giving people the space to professionally disagree can be part of the learning process. Question. What aspects of the position became more political compared to your entry-level position? Michelle. As an entry-level professional, I often felt shielded from much of the political dynamics within the institution that impacted residents' life. This was largely because the higher-ups managed many of these issues, minimizing their impact further down the chain and ensuring that residents were not affected unless absolutely necessary. However, moving into a mid-level position allowed me to gain a deeper understanding of the institutional politics shaping residents' life as a whole. Since my current role is within facilities, I've gained valuable insight into campus politics, particularly in relation to staffing policies and procedures when working with unionized staff, ensuring fairness across campus, not just within our department. I've also developed a greater understanding of the political complexities surrounding budgets and spending. As part of an auxiliary, certain expenditures must be allocated from our budget to the university, and political factors play a significant role in decisions regarding large purchases outside the university. Sean. In my entry-level experience, I felt fairly siloed as a hall director. As such, I could make decisions about my residence hall without having to consider many stakeholders outside of my supervisor and students. Once you're in a mid-level position, you're responsible for thinking beyond just residence life and must keep in mind how your department's decisions could affect other campus offices, alumni, etc. The necessity of broadening your perspective in this way is one of the biggest shifts in moving from entry to mid-level, in my opinion. Nathaniel. I think one of the key things is that I feel more responsibility to pay attention to the university and state political landscape. I am more responsible for my own learning and interpretation of the political landscape. I also think interacting with students can be a little more challenging. If I were to misspeak as an RHD, it was easier to recover than my current role. For as much as we struggle to get students to listen at times, they're really good about hearing every word. Beth. I think almost everything. This position involves navigating emotions, priorities, interpersonal relationships, and systems, and it all converges in just about every conversation or decision. It also happens in all directions, which has its own challenges. These are advanced advocacy skills that require a lot of puzzling to figure out. It is difficult, and I don't know that any of us gets it right all the time. Personally, I really like advocacy. It's why I pursued this as a career. Being part of a system so you can make changes from within is really rewarding, as systemic changes are highly impactful. Question. If you had to do it all over again, what might you do differently? Nathaniel. I would lean into my strengths and try to be the best I can be for my role. I would try to compare less with others. This would help me excel professionally and find greater fulfillment in what I am doing. Just being more present in the day-to-day and taking a moment to recognize the impact I'm having. This is something that I'm still working on in my current role. Beth. Be curious as an entry-level professional. Soak up all the information possible. Check any ego. Give grace. There are things that I don't know that are impacting decisions, so I have to trust that everybody else is working towards the best solution possible. Also, take care of my mental health sooner so I could have functioned as my best self years ago. Finally, don't take hour-plus long lunches with peers and then complain about how busy we are or how much we're working. Your mid and senior level staff see you while they're coming in early, staying late, and munching on a quick lunch at their desk. Michelle. If I could do it over, I would have been more confident in the skills I already possessed and had been less focused on the gaps in my knowledge. When I applied for my current position, I didn't fully recognize the value of the knowledge and experience I had. Prior to applying, I frequently questioned whether I was knowledgeable or qualified enough for a mid-level role. As I began exploring opportunities at other institutions, I also doubted my qualifications, feeling limited by my familiarity with just one institution. Question. What advice would you give to entry-level staff aspiring to be mid-level managers? Sean. Keep your head up. If your journey is anything like mine, you'll be met with a fair amount of rejection before you find your first mid-level opportunity. I searched for about 1.5 years before I was successful in landing that next step. There are fewer mid-level jobs than entry-level ones, so it's natural to be stuck for a while in that tension point. You're incredibly capable and gifted, even when you don't feel like you are. Find people who will remind you of your strengths when you need to hear them. Nathaniel. Invest in your current role and soak it all up. Sometimes we are in a hurry to move on to the next piece, but being present in what you're doing as an entry-level staff will help you to be a strong professional throughout the rest of your career. Michelle. Believe in yourself and take the time to listen to those around you. Actively seek constructive feedback from your supervisor to foster your growth and better prepare you for the next steps in your career. If you're considering a move to a different focus area, such as transitioning from education and development to facilities or from student housing to student engagement, reach out to somebody in that field for advice on how to gain relevant experience or expand your knowledge. This proactive approach will help you better prepare for the shift and set you up for success. Beth. Check your ego early and often. Be curious, not judgmental. Ask questions. Consider if this is really what you want to do. All the stuff you go to your supervisors about, is that what you want to spend your time doing? Entry-level staff get to deliver good news, whereas mid-level staff get to deliver the difficult news. Is that something you can do in a way that won't take a toll on you? My first director, Tom Fojtik, would say, "You spend a lot of time at work. You should enjoy it." My director during my undergrad years, Dr. Nick Nicklaus, would always sincerely ask, "Are you happy?" I think about them and their wisdom all the time. Do all facets of your job well. Supervision, team relationships, administrative work, committee contributions, training, etc. People will trust you to move up when you've shown you're solid at your current position, not only the nuts and bolts, but also in the soft skills with working within a team and interpersonal relationships. Take care of yourself. Heal your wounds. Make sure you're in a good place holistically. Moving into a different position won't fix anything. It'll just exacerbate what's already going on. Work on being the best you now so you can solidly move into your new role. Moving on to the next business side article, Same Role, Different Playbook, a comparison of RA training programs amongst institutions, submitted by John Keller, UW-Whitewater, Linus T. Chun, Lawrence University, and Brian Johnston, Washington University. For every school that has resident advisors, or RAs, there's a different set of expectations and training that institutions provide to their students at the beginning of each academic year. For the authors, there was a desire to compare and contrast some of the differences amongst their institutions' training programs for RAs and how others would learn from their experience and their practices. Each of the authors worked with their institutions to identify different practices amongst the training programs, unique aspects, and other interesting considerations for RA training. Overview of institution type. Below, each author has outlined the essential information to know about the different institutions and their housing program. John at UWW. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater is a public university in southern Wisconsin with a 2024-2025 enrollment of 11,752 students. On-campus housing has a 2024-2025 population of 4,000 plus, offering students a variety of living options including apartments, pod style, and traditional residency. University housing has multiple live-in positions including 129 resident assistants, 9 complex directors, and 10 graduate assistants. Linus, Lawrence. Lawrence University is a 4-year liberal arts institution combined with a conservatory of music. Students pursue BA and BM degrees. Students are required to live on campus all 4 years of their study. Lawrence operates in a term-based academic year: fall term, winter term, and spring term. The campus has 20 residential units, which houses 1,500 students on campus in traditional, suite-style, and apartment-style communities. The Office of Residential Education and Housing consists of the Director of Residential Education and Housing, an Assistant Director of Housing Operations, an Assistant Director of Residential Education, 3 area coordinators, and 52 community advisors. Brian from Wash U. Washington University in St. Louis is a highly selective private university in St. Louis, Missouri, with an undergraduate enrollment of 7,313 full-time students. Our on-campus population is over 4,000 residents across an array of traditional, suite-style, and both on- and off-campus apartments. Residential life currently requires first-year students to live on campus. Wash U currently has 133 resident advisors and 12 residential community directors. Costs of RA training. Each of the authors took a look at the various spending categories for RA training to outline the anticipated costs for each individual school without putting a number to the training. John. Training meals, after-hour socials, prizes, and awards for training initiatives and supplies. Linus. Training meals, duty shirts, name tags, training supplies, fun late-night sessions. Brian. Training meals, swag, staff t-shirt gift, decorations and spirit, snacks, supplies for training. Notable training sessions. Many training programs will feature similar training sessions, but the authors were encouraged to identify training sessions that were unique to what they do for training. John at UWW. Some of the most unique training sessions that we host at UWW are our rotating sessions. We host one round on community development, with sessions on our community development model, how to plan and facilitate programs, conduct, creating a sense of belonging, and others. One on concrete skills, with sessions on de-escalation, roommate conflict, mediation, listening and referring, and others. And one on a sense of belonging, with sessions on allyship, microaggressions, supporting students from underrepresented groups, and others. Linus from Lawrence. Lawrence has a number of interesting training sessions that are offered to our staff. In the beginning, we have HR come to complete the hiring paperwork. Additionally, we broke our behind closed doors sessions into 2 behind closed doors, focused on incident report writing and policy violations, and through open doors, focused on care reports and non-policy violations. Lastly, we have a number of campus partners that come present about their resources to our CAs, including Spiritual and Religious Life, Center for Academic Success, first and second year deans, and international student services. Our CAs also partake in a bystander intervention training used to educate students about safe and secure ways to assist community members. Brian at Wash U. At Wash U, we offer two unique opportunities to our RAs: QPR training and participation in Clifton Strengths. QPR, Question, Persuade, Refer, is a suicide prevention training program that each of our RAs will participate in and receive a certification. They have done online modules to receive their certification, as well as a trained QPR facilitator leading a training to ensure our staff is prepared to discuss mental health. Additionally, our RAs take the Clifton Strengths assessment to identify their top 5 strengths, and we work with our Bauer Leadership Academy to train our staff on what it means and how to use that in their floor communities. Notable training activities. While most training programs have training in the form of roundtables and presentations, each of the author's institutions featured unique activities that promoted engaging the RAs in unique and exciting ways. John, we found a unique way to engage our RAs on the topic of on-call and confronting difficult situations through doing a case study competition. We created 5 unique case studies that focus on the gray areas within the RA role. The case studies pertain to the following topics: roommates pulling pranks on one another, floor communities singling out a student with disabilities, roommate conflict involving a note-taking roommate, opposing political views on a whiteboard, and health, hygiene, and mental health. This allows the RAs to engage in a case study to engage in topics that may not have a standard operating procedure. Linus. This past training, our team presented our CAs with the opportunity to engage in a murder mystery activity designed to promote teamwork and communication skills. The activity provided opportunities to engage in a high-quality program to model the way for them to put on programs. Additionally, the opportunity offered CAs the chance to engage with individuals they are not close to, and how this might translate into their role with engaging with students and helping students overcome their hesitancy to engage with their fellow students. After the activity, area coordinators led a reflection activity to process with the CAs and how this experience translates to the work with their students. Brian. This past year, we made a conscious effort to engage with our campus partners in a unique way. Each year, there are a number of campus partners who want to engage with our RAs during training, and that becomes increasingly more challenging to fit all in the schedule. This past year, we changed our campus partner fair to become a seek and find on campus, utilizing the Goose Chase app. RAs were given the challenge to visit as many campus partner offices to learn about the resources and visit their office in person to better be able to guide students to that resource in the future. Returner versus new staff training. One of the areas that many institutions attempt to distinguish is the difference between returning RA and new RA training for their staffs. The authors identified how their institutions do so. John. Whitewater has found a number of ways that we have been able to create different tracks for returners versus new RAs. Returners will have individual staff meetings about continued support, changes, and returner expectations, while new staff will have meetings to ask questions and learn expectations. New staff will also participate in a required conduct and intro to duty session without the returners. Additionally, new RAs and returning RAs will act for each other during behind closed doors for the new RAs to see the returners model the duty protocols and the returners to coach the new staff on protocols. Linus. One of our goals this year is to distinguish more opportunities for new and returning CAs to receive more individualized training tracks. At this point, we have not distinguished between the two. Returners will engage by co-leading sessions with ACs, and sessions will be offered to enhance returning CA skill sets. Brian. Not at this time, but we are excited to learn from the other institutions on what they do. Timeline for fall training. Training programs are different amongst institutions, and one of the key differences is the difference in how long trainings are and when they begin the planning process. The authors identify their school's practices here. John. Our RA training is 2 weeks long, with the days going from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., with the meals required for our RA staffs. There are optional socials each week that the RAs can attend. Our training only goes Monday through Friday on the first week, and Monday to Thursday the following week, with move-in and Warhawk welcome on the weekend. Our fall RA training is planned beginning in the spring semester through the summer. Linus. Our CA training is 1.5 weeks long and leads to the beginning of our welcome week for our incoming first-year students. We keep our training scheduled during business hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. because we believe that training should not extend into the evenings, and we do not train on weekends. The 2 days before our scheduled new student move-in are made work days so that the CAs can complete any outstanding building commitments and duties. Additionally, these work days are intended to be flexible for CAs, offering them the opportunity to rejuvenate prior to our new students moving in. For our training proposal, we submit our first draft of the fall training schedule at the end of the winter semester. Brian. Our RA training is 2 weeks long. In between the first and second week, there is a first-year student move-in. Our staff will spend time throughout the year identifying how the fall training went and begin crafting an RA training schedule for the following fall in the spring semester. Our first draft of training is sought by mid-March and finalized plans by June 30th. Who plans the training? Each institution features an RA training planning group that differs from one another and is overseen by different individuals. The authors highlight not only the RA training planning teams, as well as the contact information for individuals who would like to learn more. John. At Whitewater, our RA training committee is led by an assistant director and up to 3 professional staff members on the committee. There are only full-time staff on the committee currently. If you have any questions about our RA training, please reach out to Maria Glorioso at gloriosomf19@uww.edu. Linus. Our CA training committee consists of our Director of Residential Education and Housing, Assistant Director of Residential Education, and the 3 area coordinators. Our team also consults with returning CAs proactively for any advice and feedback to apply for future training sessions. For any questions about CA training, please reach out to Linus Chun at linus.t.chun, C-H-U-N, at lawrence.edu. Now on to the personal side. Boundary Setting as an Educational Tool, submitted by Sophia Muta, Residence Life Coordinator, University of Wisconsin, Madison. Taking your work laptop home, having work notifications on your personal phone, responding to incidents in your building even when you are not on call. Does this sound familiar to you? Often the expectation of residence life departments is full commitment from you as an individual. If you don't work outside of normal work hours, do you even care? Clearly, if you don't work over 40 hours, that means the students you work with don't matter to you, because if they did, you would do anything for them. Insert eye roll here. The institution you work at will not fall apart just because you leave work at work, and your building will not crumble to the ground if you only work your contracted work hours. Boundary setting is an essential tool that many of us probably like to preach to student staff members, but not implement in our own lives. I would argue that we do a disservice to the students we work with when we don't set boundaries with work and overcommit to doing this job. If while you were reading this, you were feeling called out or thinking, but I do care about my students, so of course I work more than the hours in my contract. Let's talk about it. My goal with sharing this perspective is to reframe your mindset to be focused on caring for your students through role modeling, boundary setting, and providing educational experiences for them as their supervisor by setting boundaries. Look, I've been there. I have taken my work laptop home to get more tasks done, and I have worked on weekends before. But that was past Sophia, fresh out of undergrad and grad school. Current Sophia is not about that life. As a residence life coordinator, I have a lot of responsibilities related to the functioning of my hall and the well-being of the students that live in it. My primary role, however, is supervising student staff members. Typically, that supervision looks like holding them accountable for various tasks that Res Life hired them to do and offering them support when they are struggling. You may be aware that student staff members are not just struggling with their jobs, they're struggling with their academics, their mental health, and physical health, and finding time for fun, whatever that looks like for them. part of my job as their supervisor is to help guide and support them through these struggles. When a student complains to me about having too much to do and not enough time to do it, I tell them they need to drop something because they're right. No one can do everything, nor should they try. When a student complains to me about their residents constantly interrupting them while they are working in their room, I tell them to shut the door and ignore them. There's an on-call phone number posted all over the building for a reason. As a supervisor, I encourage and teach boundary setting to students, as I am sure many other professionals do. But what kind of hypocrite would I be if I didn't practice what I preached? Why would student staff members take my advice if they saw that I'm clearly not following it myself and not setting boundaries with work? If I preach boundary setting but ignore it for my own life, then how am I setting the students I work with up for success in the future when they are working full-time jobs and need to set boundaries at their own place of work? I care about my students' growth and future success, which is why I maintain workplace boundaries. Keep reading for my unsolicited advice about how you can do the same. Number 1. Turn off the dang notifications on your personal phone. We get bombarded by notifications constantly, and if you're like B, you are 100% more likely to do work outside of business hours if you see a notification about something going on in your building or a resident/student staff member needing something. It's not just reading the notification though, is it? Because once you read it, it's in your head and way more likely that you will agonize over it until you actually respond. That is so much unpaid labor that you're doing. You do not get paid enough to spend hours of your life thinking about work, so remove the temptation by turning notifications off. Responding to my staff members' messages is a way to build relationships with my staff. Let me be so real for you right now. You are not friends with the students you work with, you are their boss. If you are using GroupMe or Teams or whatever to build relationships with your staff members, respectfully, that is weird. There are plenty of other ways to build rapport with student staff members during work hours, so lean into those instead. But what if my staff member needs me? They don't. There's a person on call for a reason. Maybe 1 week that really is you, and then you can respond to incidents to your heart's desire. But the second you are off call, turn on notifications off. Well, maybe I'll respond just in case because I'm worried for XYZ reasons. Okay. Let's think back again to the students you supervise. Are you responding because you think they need help? My question to you is, what are you teaching them if the second they message you, you drop everything at a moment's notice to respond to them? I can tell you that you are not teaching them problem-solving skills. You're actually taking away opportunities for them to grow and learn how to solve their own problems. When they graduate and have a full-time job, they won't have you to step in and solve their problems, so why are you doing it now? Let them learn. Let them make mistakes. Number 2, leave the work at work. It is hard enough to create a normal work-life balance, and then when you add living in the place that you work, it's an extra challenge. Physically leaving your work laptop or papers in your office for the day will remove the temptation of doing work outside of business hours. But Sophia, how will my student staff members even know that I work outside of work hours? They'll know because either 1, you will tell them you worked outside of work hours because you know that as their boss they have to listen to you even if it's complaining about your job, or 2, they'll see emails, notifications, etc. from you even if you schedule send things. They're smart humans. The students I work with call me out for schedule sending emails all the time. Or 3, they'll see how exhausted you are from overworking yourself constantly, and like the smart humans they are, will connect the dots to know you are working more than your contracted hours. Again, I want to ask you, what are you teaching these students by overworking yourself way past 40 hours per week, a standard work week? You are teaching them that it's okay to get burnt out. You are teaching them that work is all they should care about. You are teaching them that they have to accept poor working conditions as long as they love their job. You are teaching them that if they have any free time, it should be dedicated to working. Newsflash, that is incredibly toxic behavior, and I would hope that you, as an educator, want to teach your students how to care for themselves, not work themselves to their demise. Number 3, find joy and meaning outside of work. Work cannot be your only joy in life. You'll get burnt out often if it is. Therefore, you need to find happiness, joy, and meaning outside of the job. How do I find joy when the only thing I know right now is work? Well, my question back to you is, what did you enjoy doing as a child with no responsibilities? Maybe you played sports, practiced music, had a plethora of hobbies. Let's get back to that, friend. Or maybe there's something you always wanted to do but don't think you have the time for it. Now you do with those sweet, sweet boundaries in place. Who cares about this, Sophia? How does this actually help me be a better supervisor? And what does it teach the student staff members? 1. You should care. You have one life and it should not be spent only working. I do not dream of labor. I dream of spending time on my hobbies like being outside, reading, and playing board games with my friends. Joy is a requirement for a fulfilling life and for lowering stress. The only person capable of lowering your stress levels is you, so get on finding your joy right away. 2. You are a better supervisor when you are happier and less stressed. Having joy in your life helps you to stay calm, cool, and collected, even when the students are getting on your nerves. It also helps you have more patience with the staff you work with, which in turn will help you build and maintain strong relationships with them. 3. You are role modeling joy to your student staff members. Often the students we work with are overcommitting to classes, extracurriculars, etc. Seeing you find joy outside of your job gives them hope for their future after college and that they will have time to do things they love and enjoy. It also encourages them to find joy now. They will also be less stressed and happier when they have joy in their life and therefore more likely to do well in their role. By role modeling joy, you are teaching them that their job does not have to be their whole world, and it shouldn't be. Boundaries are difficult to set, but even more challenging to maintain. I'm here to tell you that this is worth it because it helps you to be a better supervisor and mentor. When you role model setting boundaries, the staff you work with will see you care, not just about them and their well-being, but about your own well-being as well. Maybe the suggestions I offered previously won't work for you right now, but I urge you to find something that does, to separate you from work. You'll be happier for it, and your students will benefit immensely. Start with something small this week. Maybe you normally take your laptop home every day. Start by leaving it in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and over the weekend. If this is hard to do, remind yourself that you are setting boundaries to protect your time and as an educational tool for your students. You are actively becoming a better supervisor with each boundary you set, and you are working towards a sustainable work-life balance. When you are successful at creating a boundary, don't forget to celebrate. You deserve it. Continuing on the personal side, reflecting on the UMR Committee experience, an opportunity for professional growth and connection. Submitted by Daniel Chow, Assistant Dean of Students, Cornell College. Many of us wish for more professional development opportunities. Did you know there's a fantastic avenue accepting volunteers in your own region? UMR committees are a vehicle for all-year involvement. Join your colleagues virtually and in person after the conference to advance interesting topics, plan for the next conference, and bring professional development opportunities to your peers all over the region. My passion for committee work dates back to my graduate days at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. As a graduate hall director, our department sent out my peers and I to the annual regional conference. I learned from other new professionals and had access to the ideas of veterans like never before. Connections I made at conference socials and the subsequent committee work have continued for 17 years. Karaoke with 300 of your colleagues is definitely a core memory. So many conference sessions have generated amazing ideas for my home campus, like the concept of live-on facility service techs, the structure of consolidation procedures, and numerous resident assistant programming models. Sessions are like shortcuts to new ideas, which also come with a real person you can reach out to for deeper learning. Jordan Wolf, community coordinator at Kansas State University, shared her reasons for joining a UMR committee. I attended a few UMR conferences in a row, enjoying seeing people I've worked with in the past and meeting new people and wanting to contribute in some way. Inspired by my experiences, I decided to join a committee. Her enthusiasm and commitment resonated with me deeply. Joining the Engagement Committee was a natural choice for me due to the years of pleasant experiences with committee work both in UMR and ACUHO, my previous region. The congenial collaboration, meeting new professionals from across the states, and of course the social time are aspects I cherish. My understanding of this residential education field and the good we can do expands with every year I stay involved. If your institution offers professional development funds, UMR is a great value, and I've seen some deals. I'm looking at you, University of Northern Iowa RA Conference. Still considering? The value of a committee extends further because your involvement can be a great addition to your resume. As a hiring manager, learning about what committee tasks you completed often expands the skills you are already bringing from your full-time job. In your day-to-day, you may not work with vendors, marketing, surveys, and data, but you could have those opportunities at UMR. And finally, it's not all about the work. The time spent in community with your residents' life friends, some known and others new, can't be replicated on this scale in any other way. My family doesn't understand my job, but every person in the organization does without having to reference the movies Animal House or Monsters University for examples of professional university staff. Have we convinced you? We're glad! Join us for the annual conference in La Vista, Nebraska, October 28th through 31st, 2025, and ask about joining a committee. Continuing on the personal side. A review of Resident Advisors 2015, mostly likes or mostly yikes, submitted by me, Travis Lepke, Complex Director of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. What do you get when you mix egregious HR compliance concerns, unprofessionalism, and the writers having a general lack of awareness of the organizational structure of a university? You get the show Resident Advisors 2015. A singular season brought swiftly from infancy to infirmary in its attempts to compete with an arguably better written, but similar in vein, show of the same year, Superstore, 2015 to 2021. Within seconds of the opening of the show, we have a building fire and two RAs engaging in separate incidences of sexual misconduct. Minutes in, we have inappropriate handling of room placement and gender affirmation, an unapproved farting dog loose in the building, and a staff member giving loose prescription meds to an injured student. Whew, is that all? Resident Advisors is a show about the slice of life experiences of a staff of resident advisors and their supervisor in a large metropolitan residence hall. It follows the following characters as found in the Wikipedia page. Doug Weiner, a 30-something resident advisor who is pursuing his 5th master's degree. Olivia Blunt, the no-nonsense residence director of Hutcherson Dormitory with aspirations of moving to Silicon Valley. Sam Parker, a smart and competent RA who is putting himself through college. Amy Willard, a quirky and self-conscious RA who loves dogs. Wow, so much depth. Tyler Stone, a girl crazy and testosterone-fueled RA in Hutcherson. Areas I think they got right. Kind of. Third-party hired training facilitators or speakers can really feel that weird, and sometimes they actually do not understand the clientele they are speaking to. Some professionals, aka the dean of this show, regardless of their position in the hierarchy, can really be that unprofessional. Because the show was 2015, the students in the show are more socially connected than the students of a post-COVID landscape. But having a full cast of quiet, isolated, conflict management novices wouldn't make for good television. The RAs working together with students to find a compromise was actually very intriguing, and I enjoyed the candor between the continuously age-discriminated RA and the two students who were mistakenly placed together. The show did highlight that even the awkwardness of role-playing training, like a behind closed doors, can create satisfying connections between staff members. Areas I know they were a little off, or honestly way off. The resident director of a towering building has a standard RA room as a fringe benefit to their role. Sometimes we have smaller living options, but please. The dean of the school is an over-the-top nightmare representation of a professional, and she lacks any semblance of professionalism or a desire to support students. Honestly, I could see her being a liability to the institution as a whole. For a school that looks to be extremely expensive to attend, there's a severe lack of administrative or record-keeping software to manage the day-to-day operations. Like my earlier point about the social skills of students, that just doesn't make good television. I first watched this show when I was a college student, in a position adjacent to the RA role at my university. At the time, I didn't feel as though the show was entirely binge-worthy, but it had me laughing at the arguably ridiculous but not too far off scenarios I knew RA peers of mine had likely experienced. The situations in this show were presented a lot like how LaCroix represents itself like a soda substitute. It's close enough to recognize it's trying, but it left an awkward taste behind. Side note, this is not shade to LaCroix. As a full-time professional who has 5 years of experience overseeing residence halls and a staff of RAs, I found myself to the disdain of my fellow watch party overanalyzing the illogical procedures, lack of training, and common sense of the staff members. Frankly, nearly everyone in the show should have had some sort of job action, firing, or university investigation initiated before the end of hall opening. I wonder if this is how nurses and other medical staff feel when watching those classic medical dramas. But I do think this show has one valuable factor hidden within the layers of cringe. It was a great tool for building a bond with my RA staff. They got to see that their role on campus made it to the big screen. Well, Hulu, then Amazon, but still bigger than a self-made production. Furthermore, the show was such a satire of the position and the crises that RAs would encounter that it made our fall training much less daunting in scope. The cast is also a mix of some decently well-known actors, so their delivery was certainly not the issue with the show. Because this show only got one season, which entirely evolved around one singular plot point, I do think it culminated into a fine enough conclusion. I also found a bit of joy in the connections the staff members built throughout the season. It reminded me a lot of my previous years of staff members overcoming difficult situations. So, maybe give the show a try. I'm almost certain many of you wouldn't like it, but I don't like The Office, and look how beloved and weird that show is. Continuing on the personal side, Taking Up Space, submitted by Amanda Kabir, Residence Life Coordinator at Missouri Western State University. Earlier this week, I had a resident assistant reach out to me about an event that their sorority is holding in honor of Women's History Month. The resident assistant told me that the event will be a conversation about what it means to take up space in our own lives and how to be intentional with the space that we occupy. She said that the focus of the conversation is to also highlight women who are doing work in fields that are typically male-dominated, such as higher education. She also explained that she would like to hear my responses to questions about my own experiences in life and in the workplace. Originally, I was overwhelmed. I was, of course, grateful for the opportunity to be invited into the conversation, but I also felt a strong wave of imposter syndrome wash over me. Who was I to be contributing to this conversation? Upon some reflection, I decided that I did want to answer these questions and be a part of a conversation that might help other young people, particularly women, see the value of using their voice and taking up space intentionally. For a while now, I have also wanted to submit an article for Perspectives and gain that professional experience, but I haven't been able to decide what I could write about that would be value added to the publication. This is only my third year in housing and residential life, so I did not feel qualified to speak to a particular topic from a place of experience. When this conversation originated, though, I began to think about how this might be a good contribution to bring. Included here are the prompts that were a part of the conversation on taking up space. I have also included the responses I shared to those prompts based on my own experiences. I'm grateful for my journey as an individual and as a professional, and the highs and lows, even those listed here, that have come along with it have helped shape me into the person I am today. How do you take up space in your own life and work? In my personal life, I have not always been somebody who took up space. When this question was asked, I knew I wanted to write about my experience because it is so powerful to advocate for our own space. In my 20s, I felt that taking up space for myself took space from other people. I undervalued myself and the voice that I bring to the room and the conversation. I didn't appreciate the perspective and the insight that I could contribute. As I got older, I started to take up space gradually, sharing an opinion or different perspective here and there. In professional spaces, my thoughts and opinions and perspectives were typically respected. In personal spaces, it was met with pushback and immediately discredited. By my early 30s, I was starting to see a vast difference in the way I was given space in my professional life, which at the time was a position I held in higher education, and in the way my voice and my thoughts were silenced in my personal life. The fact that I was able to see the contrast between my professional life and my personal life, and able to see the impact I could make when I took up space, empowered me to make some life-altering changes to my personal life that drove me to prioritize taking up space and to establish boundaries that made taking up space an expectation moving forward. What are your experiences as a woman in the workplace/academia? I have been fortunate in my professional experiences to not experience a lot of negative mindsets guided towards my womanhood in the workplace. In the majority of my experiences, I have been given the space to grow and learn as a professional and have been given the same experiences and opportunities as my male colleagues. There are a couple interactions, however, that over the course of my career I have found unique and will share here. The first interaction that comes to mind is applicable to this conversation about being a woman in the workplace happened while I was working in a grant program through a community college. We were a student-centered program, so as you can expect, over the summer months, our program slowed down because students were not on campus. As a result, my department went more casual with our dress code over the summer months. One day, my direct supervisor called me into her office, and from the tone of the conversation, I could tell that she thought this would be received as something humorous, but I did not find it to be so. She then read an email to me from her supervisor, also a woman in leadership, who had emailed to find out if we had a painting project going on in the office because she had walked past me on campus earlier and observed that I was dressed down in jeans and an institutional t-shirt. The rest of the email went into a negative, detailed description of my appearance. I was obviously offended by the nature of the insult and immediately felt insecure. That incident happened years ago now, but at the time I remember wondering what set of circumstances made this person feel comfortable vocalizing such a critique. Would a similar critique be made of my male coworker? It was the first and genuinely the only time I felt professionally singled out for physical attributes and held to criteria that felt more harshly observed than it would in my male colleagues. Second interaction that I feel connects to the conversation of taking up space is a situation I faced at a previous institution I was a resident director at. During my time there were times that on a team of equals my experience, my opinions and point of view, and essentially my voice, were silenced. I had to create space where none was given, and I had to develop persistence and find ways to support these issues with facts and research to make it harder for my voice to be discredited. I was grateful that the experiences I had earlier in my personal life prepared me for similar issues that were happening in the workplace. That kind of work, creating space that is not willfully given to you, is emotionally exhausting. After some time, I began to pursue other employment opportunities that would both encourage and provide a space for my perspective and thoughts as part of the conversation. In that process of searching, what I was actually able to find was a space not only given to me for the role they chose for me to fill, but also a space that provides a way for me to feel seen and appreciated in the work I do there. What are your accomplishments and passions that you are proud of and want to share? As a professional over the last several years, I have worn many hats. I have worked with collegiate trio programs and ran the tutoring operations for the college. I have been both an elementary and a secondary teacher, and I have worked as a residential life professional. And in all of my roles, the thing I have been most passionate about is building relationships with students. I have never been comfortable creating a list of my accomplishments to announce out loud to others, but I will say that in the moments where I've felt the proudest and most accomplished of the work that has been done, it always involves students and being able to walk away from the scenario feeling like I helped them. Thus concludes our reading of the Perspectives 2025 March edition. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.